how many of you, raise your hand either inside or outside, have ever encountered or struggled with self-doubt? Thank you. Mine shows up in the form of a little gremlin. You don't know enough. You haven't done enough. You are not enough. And this past weekend, I got sick enough, and I said, stop it! He said, I don't actually think I believe you. Let's have a look. Let's look at some objective data. And let's start with the numbers. My formal education, from high school through postdoctorate training, cost me a grand total of $206,000. Yeah, ouch. The little gremlin was like, But what about Malcolm Gladwell? Oh no. What about continuing education? $18,870. What about professional development? $71,000+. Making my formal and post-training education and development a grand total of almost $300,000. Little gremlin says, what about Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000-hour rule? That's what makes you an expert. I said, Besides the fact that there's questions about validity and applicability, etc., let's run the numbers. I have a total of training and working with patients and developing my skill set as a physical therapist and working with patients, 38,000+ hours. What do you think of that? It quieted again, but it's had another fight. But you haven't seen enough patients yet. It's like, all right, let's run the numbers again. Since 2003, I have had approximately 29,000+ patients that I have interacted with one-on-one. By all social standards, I have spent enough money, I have seen enough patients, and I have spent the time to become an expert. So why do I listen to you? What would an expert say? In fact, what would a body intelligence expert do when analyzing this problem? I would say it's a habit. Self-doubt is a habit. And it's not just a habit that lives in the thoughts of my mind. You see, every thought has a corresponding nerve impulse. And every nerve impulse has a physiological expression that plays itself out, not just in the thoughts of my mind, but in my body, and how it moves, and how it breathes. First, one needs to recognize their problem. Second, they need to own it, and there is an art to owning it without self-blame and flagellation, and further annihilation of self, right? This little gremlin is a thought, and the brain is supposed to think like your heart is supposed to beat. So it's not my fault that I get stuck in this swirling trap of misery. That's just what brains do. And when I own it, I can transform it by replacing it with a different strategy, a different neurological habit. Affirmations are great. I don't think they get to the whole of the issue. but starting to say, I know enough. There's evidence. I do enough. I am enough. Think that, but also what does that feel like? Because if I don't change the feeling associated with the thought in the body, it's kind of surface and it doesn't get to the deeper issue where that little gremlin lies. And I happen to think that this two-way street of brain to body, body to brain, needs top-down interventions as well as bottom-up interventions. And so when I catch myself in the loop of listening to the little gremlin, affirmations may or may not be enough. My most recent favorite is congruence breathing. We can all do it together and notice how it makes you feel. It's an inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This drives regulation of your autonomic circuitry and facilitates a transformation out of any habit. The caterpillar thought it was going to die, and then it became a butterfly. Transformation, metamorphosis, change is a normal, natural part of life, and it's, in my experience, always got times where it's hard and scary. And I don't think that means you're doing it wrong. I think that means you're doing it right. And I think if change is hard and scary, that means you're a normal human being. And I think it's worth it. And I have close to 30,000 patients that would probably say the same. And that is owning it from a voice of confidence.